But I want to talk about now, let's switch, because one of my biggest issues on my locals community has been mental health. And along with that comes bullying. Every week when I was a news reporter, I would get parents messaging me talking about bullying in schools. And in just the last month here in mid-Michigan, there have been at least 2 students who have committed suicide. Their family says because of bullying. I did an interview a couple weeks ago, or no, it was earlier this week or last week. I forget. Time goes quick. With a therapist and someone talking about this. And I got a call or a message, someone, I believe she's a local supporter, about her experience. And I was just shocked. And this shows that it can happen in any community. So I want to bring her on here. Susie, hello.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm glad you got the technology figured out. And I was able to look at some of your history. You sent me the link to that article. That was back in 2014?
Yes. Yeah, 2014.
Okay. So you're from Metro Detroit, Oakland County. Or no, is that Oakland or Wayne County? Where is it?
Northville's Wayne County. Well, there's part of it in Oakland, but I was in Wayne County, right at near 8 and Haggerty.
Okay. So yeah, when I was talking a couple weeks ago about, I think it was bullying, you were on commenting, right?
Right, correct.
Okay. So how 2014, I got set the stage. You had a young man, he was in high school.
Right. We homeschooled our kids.
Oh, okay.
They went to kindergarten and first grade through Northville Public Schools and decided to homeschool from that point on. At the age of, I don't know, 14, whatever it is, where they start high school, my oldest had said he wanted to go to high school. So we put everything in motion to get them enrolled in school. And let me just add, when people hear homeschooled kids, sometimes they think they're not socialized.
That's what you think. Yeah, I hear that's a stereotype.
Right.
Is it true?
No, he participated. My kids participated. There was a group in Livonia where it was like a college campus.
Oh.
Where the kids could take classes. You pay for them as a parent. They were taught by teachers. And it was probably 500 kids. I mean, it was a lot of kids. So they were socialized. So that was not it at all. But he wanted the high school experience. So he went to high school and started 9th grade, and everything, as a parent, we thought everything was going great. He seemed to fit in really well with the kids. His friends in the neighborhood, they said he was doing really well. Well, 10th grade came along and we noticed that our son got real quiet. He changed. He was very outgoing. I mean, he was the kid that his picture was in the newspaper a couple times. He was the outgoing one. But he became real quiet and he seemed depressed. And I asked him numerous times, is something going on? Is something going on at school? And he said no. Well, come to find out, there was a lot going on at school. And, just preparing for this talk with you, I pulled out, I have a binder with all the paperwork, and it really got some feelings going in me and what we went through. But anyway, he got real depressed where family members noticed it. And what had happened was, some of the kids, my son, I just want to show you a picture of who we're talking about. I don't know where the camera is. I mean, normal looking kid,
Yep.
We were told he didn't fit the cookie cutter mold of Northville, the shorter hair. He had a 4.0 GPA, smart kid, played the guitar, did karate, normal, as far as we were concerned. And he was picked on because they said he didn't fit the cookie cutter mold because he had the long hair. And we actually would joke about it. And I would say to him, well, people might think you're a hippie, but you're a smart hippie. His teachers loved him. They said because he was a homeschooled kid, he was very respectful, great grades. Well, some of the other kids didn't like the attention that the girls gave him because of the longer hair. And they decided to create a Twitter account. This Twitter account had over 4,000 followers. I have it here. I think it was like 4,300 followers. So it was quite large. Justin found out about it in March of that year. and he didn't say anything to us because he said he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to handle it. The problem with the Twitter account was the password was shared among the high school
Oh
with
my.
a core group of kids. So about 10 kids had the password. My kid was very much his reputation, was important to him. He wanted to become a veterinarian, so he was always thinking to the future. Well,
Yeah.
this Twitter account was tweeting horrible things, pornography, drugs, horrible. And it was actually other kids were picking up on it from surrounding districts, Livonia, Stevenson High School, where then suddenly my son is threatening other kids. And again, this
It
was
wasn't
not him.
him.
It
It wasn't
wasn't
him
him.
at all.
So it's time for him to take his ACT, and he was taking it at Livonia Stevenson High School.
Yep.
And he was real nervous about doing it because he's got all these threats out there to kids from this fake account. We found out about it because he came home from school one day and I could just tell, I mean, my kid mentally, something was wrong. And I said, you have to talk to me. What's going on? And I had my laptop sitting on the table and I happened to go to Twitter, his Twitter account. He had his own Twitter account. And all of a sudden, another tweet appeared under Justin McKillop. So somebody was on the fake Twitter account and tagged him. I'm watching these tweets now as he's being tagged going out. And he said, yeah, I didn't tell you guys because I didn't know what to do. He said, I've been trying to handle it on my own. And it's just getting bigger and bigger and not going away. He said, I don't understand why this is happening. So we contacted the school the next day because these tweets are coming out during school hours. And I know there's a lot of opinion about if a school district should get involved or not. But I felt that if the tweets are being posted during school hours from the school, they should be involved.
Yeah. And did you contact, Twitter is horrible. They were horrible to get in touch with.
Yeah, no, we tried, we couldn't get a hold of the account was there and it's still up to this day. So we went to the school, we talked to the assistant principal. Now this is a school that had 3,500 kids in it. I mean, it's like they said, a small city. So there's a Northville Township police officer there at all times. He met with us and I showed him, I brought my laptop and you could see tweets posting as we're talking to the police. And I said, so they're coming from the high school. These are kids in the high school. I did my own detective work because pretty much I felt they were blowing us off. I did my own detective work and I was able to piece together who some of the key players were in this. The police officer, I gave him the names on who I thought were involved in the account. He interviewed them and he said it took the first interview and one of the kids started singing like a chicken, he said, with names. Well, then word got out. This just made it worse. Word got out that my child went to the police. So now he's titled a snitch. This was so bad that the school district had to put security on him. Wow. He had to leave class early. He could never be in the hall ever when the other kids were out there. He had to leave early and he would leave the building through a door that normally the kids couldn't go out for his own safety. Because what happened is in the lunchroom, he went to get his lunch. One of the kids that had a horrible reputation, it was a fighter. He went to attack my son. Allegedly, he had a knife. My son said he had a knife. The police said they couldn't search the locker without, a search warrant? I don't know. But they were in fear for my kid's safety. Now, this same kid had actually stabbed another kid with an EpiPen. So we were a little nervous. So my kid had security on him. He couldn't experience high school as a normal kid. I felt the school district, as Justin said, he was punished. He was punished and he was the victim. And if you look at bullying, you never, ever want the victim to feel that it's their fault. he was in National Honor Society. One of the kids, one of the key players, if you can believe this, was in National Honor Society. To be a member of that, there are 4 pillars. Character is one of them. Justin said, how can I go do volunteer work when I got to face the one kid? And he was right. He said, I feel the school district should stand up and kick this kid out of National Honor Society. So that was a whole nother issue. The school district pretty much wanted this to stay quiet. Justin, again, felt he was punished because he had to leave school early. He had to take some classes online because they didn't have the manpower to have someone follow him. I mean, it was to the point I even offered to pay for a private, not a private, somebody that would follow him. We offered to pay for it.
Yeah.
And the school district, I think, like they said, it was their first case of this magnitude.
Wait, hold on. The police couldn't even contact Twitter or take it. They didn't. Did they even try, I wonder?
They claim they tried. I don't know if they really did. They claim they tried. They said they pulled IP addresses. My son is not a fighter, even though he has a brown belt in karate. I mean, he could have kicked these kids' butts in a heartbeat. That's not who he is. My kid is more like peace and love. That's just who he is. He would feel bad killing a spider. I'm sorry. That's just who he is. So the police officer said, you know what? He said, Justin, he said, with your good looks, he said, come in one day in a leather jacket. He said, I'll look the other way if you want to throw a couple of these kids up against the locker. You can't do that. That's not who my kid is. And plus, they have a 0 tolerance policy. So if a child fights back, but he said the officer said he'd turn the other way. If a child fights back, they are punished as well. So Justin was thinking of college, this would be on his record. So fighting back was not an option, even though as his mother, I wanted to say to him, just have at it, but I couldn't. That's not who he is.
Wow. So that just kept up. Did he stay at home all the time at some point, or it got really bad? Like I know you told me maybe it's towards the end, you were having to keep a very close eye on him.
Oh, absolutely. It was really bad. They let him out of school that year early. They had him take his finals early, just to get him out. He did speak. He spoke at a Board of Education meeting because he felt he was being punished. These other kids were living a normal life in the high school, and he's the one being punished, he felt. So he spoke, and that's when the newspaper got involved, and the newspaper did the story. We were contacted by, I think it was Channel 7. I can't remember. One of the news, and, we didn't want this to get bigger because at this point, we were being followed by some of these kids. I was being followed. The threats that were on this Twitter account of what they were going to do to me, it got scary. And they actually tried to poison our dog. I put cameras up outside, and I begged my husband at that point. I said, let's move. Let's just pack up and move.
Sad.
And my son said, I don't want them to win. But, as a parent, seeing your child go through this is heartbreaking. But I camped outside his bedroom door, and I'm not kidding you, for 3 weeks straight because I was so afraid that he was going to commit suicide. I knew mentally, what this was doing to him. And I finally knew he was okay when he said to me, he says, Mom, I'm going to be all right. He said, those kids were going to bully someone. And he said, God knew that I was strong enough to handle it. He said, another kid might not have been and might have committed suicide.
He is an amazing individual because yes, even a little bit of that situation has caused so many young people to do that, commit suicide.
Absolutely.
And you have a very special son. So did he graduate it then?
He did.
From
He graduated his senior prom. The senior prom, one of the key players, the one that had the knife, his brother was coming as his guest to the senior prom. So right away when we heard that, we're thinking, oh boy, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
They put security on my kid. They had him and his date sit close to the teachers. And when Justin went to the bathroom, the security followed him without him realizing it. All this stuff was going on behind the scenes because I didn't want Justin just to say, I may as well just end it all, So I made them keep that quiet, that he was being followed.
Yeah.
He says, I look back and I kind of now I realize that they were following me. But yes, he graduated. He just graduated with his bachelor's in biology. He's changed gears, unfortunately. He wants to now be a geneticist. He wants to work in a lab, do research. He's going to be going to graduate school. But it changed my kid from being outgoing, being a veterinarian, dealing with the public. Like he said, I don't want to be around people. It totally changed him.
Wow. And wow. What and did you hear of other incidents at that school or in that district? Because it's happening everywhere. A lot of schools say they have policies, blah, 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 but many of them don't take it seriously. Have you seen it elsewhere?
Absolutely. There were other cases. And actually, when all this went down, we received a phone call from another parent that I'd never met. And she said her son was a target prior. And she said they had to actually switch schools. When we met with the superintendent, I was told that I should bleed Northville. And I said, no, I bleed for my son. My son comes first. And they said, if this hits the media, you will make house values decline.
Oh, come on. My
Seriously.
God.
And
that's bullshit.
It absolutely is. I said, we've got a kid. There wasn't any support. So I was a mom on a mission at that point where we started contacting legislatures for help. And that was another story where some said it was a subject they didn't want to deal with until they could see what was happening, because bullying was just becoming a big thing then. Patrick Colbeck, he was senator at that time. He was the only one who said, I will help you. We will write a policy, because the school policy included bullying, but it did not include cyberbullying. So that's why the school said there wasn't a lot they could do about it, other than, what they did do with having Justin leave early. And
did anything come with the state lawmakers? Did they do anything?
Well, once Patrick Colbeck got involved, there was somebody else working on a cyberbullying law at that point. So yeah, Patrick Colbeck really didn't have to do too much at that point, but it meant a lot that he listened to Justin. And I mean, he even said to Justin, he said, hey, you want me to come over? I'll shoot baskets with you, basketball in your backyard if you want. He said, I'm here for you. So that meant a lot, because we had zero support, from the police officer telling us, I'll look the other way, tell him to throw him up against a locker, to you're going to make house values decline. This story can't get out to the media. So the police did end up, one of the kids had to do community service. Well, then we found out, the parents said, absolutely not. My son's not doing that.
Did we charge one of them with a crime?
They didn't get a crime. They did like youth assistant program.
They were probably as a juvenile.
Right. Well, then the parents said, no, my son's not going to be involved in that. So again, a mom on a mission. And again, hindsight's 2020. I don't know if I would do over again.
Wow.
At that point, then we filed suit in court against the parents and the main child that created the account. We filed suit at that point. Good. We went before Judge Lowe, and we didn't want money. The only outcome we wanted was for this kid to publicly admit that he created the account. So what was interesting is the kid didn't show up for court, and the father said the kid had broke his collarbone or something. I mean, there was no accountability with these kids. And so the judge did side, and I have the order that to this day the kid had to send out a tweet, and forever it has to be out there that he created this Twitter account against my child, and that he's the one that did all the tweets. And that was the only way we could clear my kid's name for college applications.
Yeah, because it was social media. I also blame Twitter as they should. I mean, like with Facebook, if they're this big, something like that, they should have been involved. They should have. That's kind of that. They shouldn't be off the hook as well either. But
I agree.
Fighting them would have been cost you buku money,
right?
To go after them, and your lawyer probably said that too. I don't know if you,
right?
No,
I agree.
Yeah. What advice do you have to parents that, like, I have a 6 and a 10-year-old. I worry about that because I'm seeing even at times, and I hear about it, bullying or even at the younger level. What advice do you have to parents, and how did you know something was starting to go wrong? You said that he had changed a little bit, his mood.
Yeah, he changed, very quiet. He would come home and go to his room and shut the door. And the other thing, I think back, he was playing the song, and the Queen song, what is the one? Mama, I Just Killed a Man.
Oh, yeah.
I kept hearing that over and over, and I thought that's pretty dark music to keep, hearing this over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scares me. That does.
So change in the behavior. So as a parent, a guardian, don't take that, don't brush it off. You need to get involved and figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. And the other advice I would give is get their passwords. If they are going to be on social media, you must have their passwords. The only problem is one of them, I think it's Snapchat, where someone can send a message and then it disappears immediately. So you might not see it, but monitor their social media. I wish I would have done that.
Oh, because you're the parent, and in his situation, and a lot of kids, we deal with situations also where they're extorting, like getting pictures, and
right.
A kid in northern Michigan committed suicide because someone got him to send a naked picture, and they threatened to tell his family, and he killed himself.
Right.
And children, younger people will be afraid to speak up. So yeah, I always tell my child, if they ever do get on social media, they will, that if they're under my roof, if they're under 18 years old, I'm their friend, but I'm their parent first. That's what
Absolutely.
matters.
And the other advice I would give is Google your child's name. Go on Facebook, go on Twitter, go on some of these sites and put their name in and see if anybody has created an account under their name.
I do that to myself, and I have like so many people create fake accounts of me,
right.
But with that, right, you can also go to Google and set up a Google alert where it will email you if your name pops up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Google. It's really, anyone who wants to do that. I do it just because the crazy people who don't like me out there. But you can have a Google News alert, and I think it'll show up if your name appears in Google. But you're right. Just go to Twitter, go to TikTok, whatever it is, type in the name, and then you can see Instagram as well. Snapchat's right. A little more difficult. So yeah, your son, he was amazing. I mean, he did not take his own life. He was a very strong individual. But your advice to parents is, as soon as you see something, just get involved. And it sounds like, don't give up.
No, don't. And start connecting the dots. And that's what I did. When those tweets were appearing and he was being tagged and they were coming across, I knew then it wasn't him. I mean, because I'm going to be honest. I mean, some of those tweets, at first I thought, who is this? This isn't the kid I raised. What's he putting out there? Why is he putting this out there?
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, exactly. And someone in the comments just said, and I noticed this too, a lot of kids won't put their real names on social media. So it's very difficult to find. But in this instance, they made this account to go after him, to Yeah, they really thought this plan out. They really thought how to torture your son.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the police department said after all the interviews and interviews with the parents, it was because my kid was different. They said that, and this is really sad, that the kids were jealous. We did a lot with our kids. We went up north, we went salmon fishing, we did a lot of fun things. And a lot of the parents were too busy for their kids, and they said, they were jealous of what he had. And I said, my kid's a nice kid. We've invited many of other kids to go up north with us or go fishing or whatever we were doing.
Yeah.
That's not the way to do it. And the police officer said, you need to understand, some of these parents, they work. That's all they do is work, and they don't have time for their kids. Make time for your kids. Make time for your kids.
And the public school system, especially when I reported for 25 years, they are some of the worst about hiding information, not making changes because they don't want their reputation out there. I have had so many problems with school districts hiding something. They seem to care more about their reputation than the safety of children. And I know I might get yelled at for that, but it's not all school districts. But I've dealt with that before.
We dealt with, I mean, that's what we dealt with. And what's interesting is if you go on, what are some of those sites that rate the school districts, Niche and a few others, great schools?
Yeah.
There is mention, there are posts about Justin's experience. Other kids knew what was going on.
Wow.
And what he went through. And, I swear those are not for me because I wouldn't even know how to post on there anyway. But so other people knew about it, and it's there.
Well, someone just commented, my neighbor's 7-year-old is not on social. He was bullied. He's scared to come out of his house. He was attacked at recess and broke his arm. And she put a picture in the comments. And this is how old? 7 years old. My God.
That's horrible.
Yeah. And that's a crime. I mean, that's a crime. So yeah, I mean, if we can reach one person, and I'm sure we have, you're on my locals, but if you don't mind, I'll put this out on my Facebook and that later in the week. And if we can reach one person and just continue this conversation, because people need to realize your son is probably going to be way more successful than some of those kids that bullied him. And he can probably look back and just laugh knowing that he stayed strong, and God led him in the direction now that those other kids karma's, I'm on locals. I can say it. Karma's a, what? And yeah,
right. Exactly. And I'm really thankful that we had a foundation of faith, because like he said, Mom, suicide did cross my mind. He said, but I can't break one of the 10 commandments.
Wow.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I for dragging my kids to mass on Sundays, I'm like, oh, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Same here. And that's why I'm glad I talk about that, and faith, and the country's getting away from a lot of, even if you're not religious, but what's ethical and moral and how to treat each other. I think we're getting away from what's right.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So I really thank you. I know you're going to go, and your son's probably headed back home soon. But thank you so much. And I'll message you later the link to all of this. And by you doing this and coming out and actually, going within the newspaper and all of this,